Ladies and gentlemen, the quorum for the annual town meeting is 200 registered voters. At last check with the town clerk, we had 415, and they were still coming in. So clearly, we are well in excess of what we need for a quorum for this meeting. I'd like to start off by having a moment of silence for a former town employee well known to all of us, having passed away in the last year. Member of the Board of Health and your town hall custodian, James Niven O'Toole. We could have a moment at this point. Thank you. On a happier note, I'd like to welcome back from Afghanistan Representative Harold Naughton, who is here with us this evening. Standing in the back. Your stage members for tonight's meeting are on the stage on your far right. Selectman Michael Jakonski, Selectman William Conley, Selectman James LeBlanc, Selectman David Sargent, Chairperson Mary Rose Dickow, and Town Administrator Michael Ward, and your Town Solicitor Robert Gibbons. On your far side is your clerk stenographer tonight, Julie Kilbride, and I'm John Hogan. I'll be your moderator this evening. I want to also recognize your Finance Committee members who are seated in the far right corner. Chairman James Tumalo, Mark Elworthy, Barry Whitney, William McGrail, Patricia Bonsi, and Robert Latini. The only people in the hall right now are registered voters of the town of Clinton, or people who have been given prior permission by myself to observe the proceedings from the visitor section in the back of the balcony. To speak tonight, please be recognized and then go to one of the microphones to speak. State your name and address before speaking. All questions, comments, or discussion should be directed to the moderator. I will redirect that to the appropriate person for a response. Please keep your comments to the article under discussion. All proposed amendments should be presented to me in writing. The only hands that will be counted during hand votes are those who are from voters who are seated in the hall. So I encourage all standees to take a seat before the first vote so your vote will be counted. When you checked in, you were given a blue card. That is going to be used for whenever you vote on a hand vote. You should raise your hand with your card in the hand. When we take a ballot vote, you will bring this with you. You've already checked in. Our town clerk, Phil Boyce, has come up with this new procedure, which is shorter and more efficient. And what it does is you will just have your number one will be clipped on the first ballot vote. You'll be given a ballot and you vote, and you won't have to re-register. It cuts at least in half the time needed to do a ballot vote. So that's a good process, and we've adopted it. Unless I hear an objection, I will dispense with a reading of the warrant, as you should all have copies in front of you at this time. Sir.
Bill McGrail, 5 Nugent Avenue. Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 18 be advanced.
There's a motion on the floor to go right to Article 18. Is there a second on that motion? Motion has been made and seconded to advance Article 18 dealing with the Clinton Hospital. All those in favor of advancing Article 18, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. We will now vote on, now discuss Article 18. We need to put it in play, though. Yeah.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote the following in order to relocate a certain section of a southerly portion of Broadway Street at its intersection with Highland Street, a public way, to a newly laid-out public way intersecting Greeley Street, a public way as more particularly shown on a map, on a plan on file with the town clerk entitled Proposed Relocation of Broadway Street, Clinton, Mass., prepared for the Clinton Hospital Association. I would dispense with the rest of the reading of the article, Mr. Moderator.
Second.
Article number 18 have been made and seconded, dealing with the street relocation for the Clinton Hospital project that most of you, I assume, have read about in the newspapers. Mr. McGrail.
Bill McGrail, 5 Nugent Avenue. I address the meeting tonight as both a resident of the town of Clinton and chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Clinton Hospital. This article is critical to the future of the Clinton Hospital. There is no expense involved to the town of Clinton in this article. Essentially, as you have read and the moderator briefly outlined, this involves a relocation of a portion of Broadway Street to the driveway owned by the hospital coming in from Greeley Street. If this article is approved, that driveway will become a public way. It has already been reconstructed to meet all of the specifications of a public way. The hospital hired national firms for the design and development of this new emergency department at the hospital. They were given 3 directives. One was quality of care, patient safety, and patient privacy. They came up with the design that requires if you know where the existing emergency department is, it would move from that portion, from that part of the building toward and onto Broadway. That's the reason for relocating a part of Broadway. On their design, which was unanimously approved by the Board of Trustees, it is the only feasible location for the new emergency department. I urge your support of this article. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 18 in your warrant? There being none, we'll take a vote at this time. This is a real estate transfer. It requires a 2/3 vote, and we'll vote by hand. Okay. All those in favor of Article 18, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. We'll now go to Article 1.
Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to receive the reports of the town officers.
Second.
Article number 1 have been made and seconded, dealing with the reports of town officers. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 2.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officials of the town as provided by Chapter 41, Section 108 of the Mass General Laws, as amended. Said salaries and compensation to be effective from July 1, 2012 to June 30, 2013, and to raise and appropriate a sum of money therefore.
Second.
Article number 2 have been made and seconded, dealing with the compensation for all elective officers of town. Questions, comments, or discussion? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate from the current tax levy the sum of $34,058,582, and to appropriate and transfer the sum of $24,420, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $356,641 from the Ambulance Enterprise Fund, and to appropriate from the Ambulance Enterprise Fund retained earnings the sum of $32,154, and to appropriate and transfer the sum of $84,130, and raise and appropriate the sum of $2,480,242 from the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund, and to appropriate and transfer the sum of $29,400, and raise and appropriate the sum of $392,803 from the Rubbish Enterprise Fund, said sums to be used to defray town charges from July 1, 2011 through to June 30, 2012, as those charges appear in the Finance Committee report of recommendations.
Second.
Article number 3, have been made and seconded, this dealing with your budget for the next fiscal year beginning July 1. What we'll do is we do every year, I'll go through this department by department, starting at the top, and if you have a question or a comment or whatever about a certain department, when I get to that department, raise your hand, you'll be recognized. If you're thinking of something after and you're missed, I will have a catch-all at the end to go back to whatever you would like to address. Starting at the top, moderator. Board of Selectmen. Yes, ma'am. Speak into the microphone, identify yourself and then speak into the microphone.
42 Nashua Street, taxpayer, homeowner. I do have a question on the Selectmen miscellaneous expense. It went from $7,500 to $14,000. What's the $6,500 for miscellaneous expenses?
Mr. Ward.
Those are expenses that we use to run the selectman's office and the town hall, other expenses in the town hall. During the budget downturn of the last couple of years, that had been cut in half. It was $14,000 previously, and the selectmen felt it should be brought back up to the original line item from the $7,500.
I heard a rumor that it was for computers. Is that true? Equipment?
No, that's on the following, couple line items further down. Computer equipment, that's for our network and technology for the town hall here. Again, that was $10,000 a
Right.
couple of years ago. That was cut down to $2,250, which barely just pays our internet service and any emergency we have. So again, the selectmen felt that that really needed to be brought up so we could try to, do more with our technology, our website, our networking here at the town hall, so.
I question that. We're at the CMS, Clinton Middle School, and we're running on nothing for computers, dinosaurs. Our school budget went down, and now you seem to be getting quite a bit of equipment and extra expenses as selectmen. Don't you see any increase for the school to get computers and technology? I don't see any of that coming in, but you get to have an increase with my money, with their money.
Again, just a question.
I guess you'd have to go through the school committee and ask them if they even asked for that, I don't know.
Well, I'm asking the town, because this is our money going to the Board of Selectmen.
As long as you're pertaining, I mean, the article pertains to the $10,000 to the Board of Selectmen, it has nothing to do with the schools, so you should pertain to
They can
that.
come and borrow our computers at the CMS and, see how they run, the dinosaurs. Takes us a lot to communicate with parents. 20 minutes to get an email out. It's a lot of money going to computers.
Any further activity on the Board of Selectmen? Yes? There's a motion to cut the $10,000 in the last line of the Selectmen's budget, computer equipment and supplies, from $10,000
I make a motion?
to what?
Second the motion?
You haven't made a motion yet first, ma'am. You made a motion to cut the budget.
Cut it back.
Cut it back to what?
Gotta read it again. To $2,250.
Okay. Motion's been made to cut the Selectmen's computer equipment and supplies from $10,000 to $2,250. Is there a second on that motion? Second. Questions, comments under the proposed amendment to the budget? There being none. All in favor of cutting the $10,000 back to $2,250, please raise your card in the air. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. The amendment is defeated. Back to the main budget. Finance Committee. Town Accountant. Board of Assessors. Town Treasurer. Tax Collector. Parking fines. Town Solicitor. Town Clerk. Conservation Committee. Planning Board. Zoning Board, Montechusett Planning Committee, Office of Economic Development, Town Hall Custodian, Insurance and Miscellaneous. Next page. Police Department. Sir.
Joseph Notaro Jr., 90 Chase Street. I'd like to make a motion to amend the Finance Committee recommended budget for fiscal year 2013 as follows. I'd like to decrease the I'd like to decrease the police miscellaneous expense by $6,000, and I'd like to move $3,000 of that to the Council on Aging miscellaneous expense, and I'd like to also move $3,000 to the library miscellaneous expense. The total net change to the overall budget by this motion is $0.
Motion has been made to cut the Police Department miscellaneous expense and decrease it from $79,000 to $73,000, and transfer that money to the Council on Aging miscellaneous expense, $3,000 increase for that, and the library miscellaneous expense, $3,000 increase in that, for no change in the overall budget, just line item changes. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded. Questions, comments, or discussion under the proposed amendment? There being none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion is defeated. Okay, still under the Police Department? Fire Department? Building Inspector? Gas and Plumbing Inspector? Sealer of Weights and Measures? Electrical Inspector? Emergency Management? Animal Control? School Department? Ma'am?
I'm Jennifer Wiley Cordone of 62 Prescott Street. I just have a question. Do we currently have an animal control officer, and is there a plan to get one?
Okay,
Sure, I can't answer that. No, thank you for that question. We currently do not have one. Our dog officer had resigned. We've done 2 advertisements. We have not yet been able to get someone to take the job for the salary that we were offering. So the selectmen have asked to have the salary increased. We do have a couple of viable candidates that have some certifications and that are willing to take the job, but we cannot get anyone to take it for $10,000. So hopefully if this article does pass, we would have some good candidates that we could get on very quickly. And I know we've been short without one for several months, and it's been very hard on the townspeople and on town officials as well. As I say, hopefully if this article is passed, we can get someone on fairly quickly. We do have some viable candidates that I think can take it for this salary, but they will not take it for the $10,000. I know it's been very difficult past few months for townspeople and for town officials without having someone in that position, and I think you'll see that change fairly soon if this gets passed.
Thank you for your time.
School Department? Sir.
My name is Donald Summers. I'm at 115A Ridgefield Circle, and I have a question. How can we accept a budget this blank with detail? All we have down here is we took the last year's total budget and added $600,000, which that number seems to ring in my head for some reason. So I can make a motion that until we get the detail on this budget, that it not be passed. Is that the correct procedure?
Well, You would have to, at this point, you would have to amend the school department budget to what you want it to be. We're not prepared yet to vote on the final budget because we haven't gone through it. So I'm not sure how you would go about that. I think the reason, just to explain something, the reason why there is no line items in the school department is the school department has fiscal autonomy to completely control their own budget. So they have line items, but they're not in the budget per se, because the town meeting cannot affect it. We can only vote on the bottom line for the school department by state law. So that's why it's there in that fashion. Now, whether an argument could be made that maybe they could itemize it out in an explanation form, just for verification's sake, but this meeting doesn't have the authority to change any line item in the school budget. They can only change the bottom line, which is the 17 million you alluded to.
So in other words, we're being asked to approve this without the proper input from the school department.
Well, they have had input. I don't think they necessarily agree with everything in it, but they have had input in terms of the budget being, but again, the town fathers don't really dictate how they spend their money because they can't by law. It has to be, the school committee has the right to spend the money as they see fit, without town meeting jurisdiction.
Sir, I went back to 2009 and took care of all the budgets. And I find that at no time are these budgets ever compared to the actual. As far as I'm concerned, a budget is only as good or bad as if and when you compare it to the actual.
Yeah.
And it's not done here anywhere.
I understand your frustration, and I think it's shared by other people too. We would like to see what all the line items are. They're not here, and they're not under really just jurisdiction or discussion here tonight. The only thing that's under discussion is the entire budget dollar amount for the school department. Now, the Finance Committee, the joint board between the Finance Committee and the Selectmen have recommended a $600,000 increase in that budget, which is reflected in the numbers you see. But we cannot tell them, that this meeting doesn't have the authority to tell them, we want you to take so much out of this line item and put it into that line item. We can't do that.
So in other words, I don't know what we're here for then. Why are
Well,
we
we would-
discussing the school board budget if we can't do anything with it?
You can't, well, you can amend their bottom line. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but you can't affect a line item within it. That's strictly the school committee, their authority to deal with.
Well, are we then trying to, are we looking to vote on that total?
That's
The grand
correct.
total?
The 17,983.
Yeah. Well, then I make a motion that we don't approve it.
Well, we can't, the only way you could do that is to cut it or eliminate that from the entire budget, if the meeting chose to do that.
Well,
So you're making a motion to
eliminate
the
the school budget.
17,983 from the budget.
Yep.
Is there a second to that motion? There is. Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll take a vote at this time.
Okay.
All those in favor of eliminating from the budget the $17,983,480 from the town budget, please signify by raising your card now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. Okay, the motion fails. Any further discussion under the school budget?
Mrs. West.
Ma'am?
Amy Wood Small, 17 James Street. Sorry. Amy Wood Small, 17 James Street. Sir, with all due respect, I believe there have been 3 public hearings on the school committee budget.
Ma'am, you address your comments to me.
Mr. Moderator, I would just like to maybe inform people who aren't aware that I believe there have been 3 public hearings on the school committee's proposed budget. So it's not a situation where there's never been a discussion of the school's budget, and we're just showing up here tonight. You may disagree with the budget, that's a different conversation, but I just would like to make people aware that there has been an airing of the budget.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the school budget? Ma'am.
Virginia West, 21 Lane Ave, Clinton, Mass., currently Vice Chair of the School Committee. Our approved budget was $19,016,785.78. The town has allotted the amount that is in our warrant. So the difference is there. We presented a budget of 19 million plus, and they've okayed 17 million plus. So that's why probably the figures aren't there, because the figures we presented aren't going to tally with your 17 million. And that's why it's a difference there, because we did present, and we do have numbers to back up our 19 million, but we don't have them to back up the 17 million at this time.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the school department of the budget? There being none, we'll move on. Department of Public Works. Cemetery Department. Sir.
Thank you. Stephen O'Brien, 342 Green Street. Can I back up for a little bit, because I haven't had a chance to look at this?
Okay.
Can we look at item number 192, Town Hall Custodian? And we're looking at the Town Hall capital improvements, significant amount of money there, $100,000. Can I ask the committee here, what is this about? Where is this money going?
For a Town Hall Custodian,
It says under Town
192.
Hall Custodian, Town Hall capital improvements, fiscal year 2012 is zero, and it's $100,000 for 2013.
Mr. Ward.
That number is to do some work here at the town hall. We have, between the new facilities manager and the board of selectmen, building inspector, we've gone through the building and come up with a list of items that need to be addressed. There hasn't been much work done to the building since a major renovation back in the mid-'90s. So this is money to try and get a number of things corrected and keep this building up to speed.
Do you mind specifying what specifically you have in mind there?
Are you asking some of the issues, sir?
I mean, it's $100,000, and I'm curious as to...
Just one of them, if you look at the ceiling in the back, of the hanging ceiling in the back.
Okay.
Repair work has to be done there. It was done once. It has to be redone. There are a lot of windows that have to have work on them. The roof.
We're going to be converting to natural gas. We have to do some piping and to get to natural gas in the building as well, too. We do have a list of items that we have. I mean, it's just an estimate. $100,000 is an estimate. We would have to put all this out to bid to get a final price, but there are a number of items that we're looking at which are major improvements to the building.
I would like to make a motion to reduce this to maybe $70,000. Any seconds?
Okay, motion's been made to reduce the, under 192 in your budget, Town Hall Custodian, from the appropriation approved at 100,000, lower that to 70,000. Was there a second on that motion? There is. Questions, comments, or discussion under that proposed amendment to the budget?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to speak to that again. In 1994, we reopened the building after investing upwards to at least $2.2 million in this building to bring it back up. And since that time, little has been invested in this building. And in order to keep it up, we have this checklist, as Michael Ward alluded to, so there are a number of issues here that need to be done. So, again, a ladies' room back here doesn't work anymore. There are a number of issues that just have been let go because we didn't have the money to do it. So Again, a lot of money was invested in this building 17, 18 years ago, so it's a matter of getting to them and fixing and bringing it back. So that's it.
I understand that. I think we're all under some financial constraints, and we all tighten our belts. And I'd like to, it's a beautiful building. There's no doubt about that. But I think everybody should tighten just a little bit harder. And starting with you guys would be, or this building, or the town as a whole, be a good place to start.
Mr. Moderator,
Sir.
this building isn't our building, it's your building. And it's in need of major repairs all over the place. That crack in the ceiling over there, if it gets worse, it could cause us to close down this hall or a portion of this hall from public meetings. We have clay roofing tiles. They're historic, architectural, hard to find, falling off the roof, crashing onto the sidewalk. We have, the roof back here is leaking. We have the steps out in front. I don't know if you noticed, there was a temporary patch put in the hole out front there. That's temporary because we're cutting back and holding back on doing major repairs, but they have to be done. If you don't spend the money now, I'm a building contractor. Even in the worst economy we've ever had, prices never go down, they go up. So if you defer this critical maintenance for a longer period of time, it's only going to cost you more later.
I'm not requesting that we put it away and not address what's important. I'm suggesting we pick and choose what is most important and tighten our belts like everybody else does.
Okay, is there any further questions, comments, or discussion on the proposed amendment change? There being none, we vote on that amendment change right now. If you vote yes, you'll be voting to decrease the $100,000 figure under Town Hall custodian for capital improvements from $100,000 to $70,000. All those in favor of that change, please indicate by raising your card in the air now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion is defeated. Back to the Public Works Department. Under the Cemetery Department. Board of Health. Sorry. Ma'am.
Catherine Rosania Otis Street. I just had a question under the DPW for the sand and ice.
Can you speak into the microphone, ma'am? They're having a little trouble
Oh,
hearing
sure,
you.
sorry. Under the DPW, the snow and ice removal, the $60,000 budget for last year and then the $90,000 increase for next year, the $30,000 increase. Last winter was really mild, so if there's an excess, which maybe there was or maybe there wasn't, I don't know, does the money stay in that fund or is it rolled over into like lawn maintenance and things like that in the spring?
Well, it's a line item in the DPW budget, and if they need to spend it, they do. I mean, there's been a lot of years, I know last year was mild, there's been a lot of years when they blew that budget out by Christmas, and we didn't have anything, but, they had to get it from other sources. So sometimes it will be transferred, sometimes it will be left unappropriated, and then it has to be reappropriated the next year. It's just money not spent. It doesn't roll over.
Okay, so it may be gone already, but by next winter it may be gone, and they would need the increase.
Well, they just don't know, they're trying to budget something, and every winter seems to be different. And like I said, sometimes they're way over, and sometimes last year they were under because they didn't have as many storms. So, they're just doing the best they can with a rough estimate of what they think it will be. If they don't spend the money, it either gets transferred to another item if there's a shortfall, or it just doesn't get spent. But that transfer would have to be approved by the Finance Committee.
Okay, but I guess my question is, it's by next winter it is gone?
Well, we don't know. Depends on what the weather's like.
No, but is it used within 2012? Is it used by the end of fiscal 2012
Fiscal
year?
2013. Yes. Mr. Ward?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, thank you. I just wanted to address this question a little bit. If you see on the next to your last page of your budget sheet, there, under snow and ice account, Under the use of resources in the second grouping there at the last one at the bottom, snow and ice account, that is the overage. We appropriate $60,000 in the road department budget for snow and ice expenses, but every year, historically, I mean, we could go back probably 30 years or more, and we've always spent more than $60,000. As you'll see in that line item, in fiscal 2012, the final budget, which was from 2011 expenditure, that was $255,000. That was over and above the $60,000. So it was over $300,000 spent on the snow and ice account. This year, it was a mild winter, so our overage for last winter is about $100,000. But that's over the 60. So I think the Selectmen and Finance Committee looked at it and said, we're always deficit funding this line item. So if we have the ability to move some of that money into the line item, it will lessen the deficit that we have at the end of the year. So certainly 90,000 will not be enough as well. I don't think since the time I've been here that we've spent less than $90,000. So that will probably be short, but it will lessen the deficit at the end of the year.
Okay, great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Still under the DPW, any further questions on that? Board of Health? Council on Aging?
Mr. Moderator?
Sir.
Bill Conley Jr., 46 Winthrop Street. I'd like to make a motion. This is essentially the motion that was made earlier under the police department, to take $6,000 out of the police department miscellaneous expense account and put $3,000 of it in the library miscellaneous expense account and put $3,000 of it in the Council on Aging miscellaneous expense account. And if I'm allowed, I'll
Well,
explain.
we already voted on that, Bill.
Well, I'm making a different motion. This is about the Council on Aging.
Okay, can you give me, do you have something in writing or no? All right. For a second, is there a second to that motion? Second, okay. Why don't you begin once again? Mr. Conley.
Mr. Moderator, the reason I'm making the motion now is because I don't think the meeting was clear on what they were voting on. This $6,000 is money budgeted by the Board of Selectmen in the Police Department miscellaneous expense account to rent a portable trailer for police officers' qualification and training, instead of utilizing the property that they've used the last 3 years up behind the Cap landfill. I think renting that mobile trailer is an outrageous waste of money and a manipulation of the process. The mobile trailer cost of $6,000 will provide approximately 1 hour of training per officer in the town of Clinton. The trailer prohibits them from using all the firearms that they have and that they use. They won't be allowed to qualify in this trailer with some of the firearms in their inventory. Do we really want our officers not trained in the firearms that they might need to use? This is opposed to using town land that costs us nothing to use. The trailer vendor, in his own letter, says that they require the officers to wear vests while shooting. Why? What about the citizens walking by? Will they be offered vests? The trailer vendor says that the trailer is unmarked. Why? They suggest keeping the trailer away from residential homes. Why? Let's see, should we pay thousands of dollars to have thousands of rounds of high-caliber ammo shot in the middle of downtown Clinton, or should we let our officers train as needed, where they always have, without incident and for no cost? It's a no-brainer for me. No cost. For the past 100 years, our police officers have been training outdoors behind the dump, versus $6,000 per hour. Downtown Clinton, next to our churches, stores, and library, versus the outskirts of town, next to the landfill, sludge dump, and gravel pits. What we need are more books in downtown Clinton, not more bullets. Books, not bullets. Please remember that when you vote. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion on the proposed amendment? There being none, we will take a vote at this time. All those in favor of, again, you would be taking from the police miscellaneous expense, changing from $79,000 to $73,000, and increasing the council on aging miscellaneous expense $3,000, and the library miscellaneous expense $3,000 for a no real change on the bottom line of the town budget. All those in favor of that proposed amendment, please indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion has passed. Okay, Council on Aging, Veterans Affairs, Library, Parks and Rec, Fuller Field, Pensions, Miscellaneous, and you've got your enterprise funds, ambulance, water and sewer, rubbish, and a budget summary on the last page. Is there anything anybody would like to go back to that we have already gone through in terms of department? Okay, if not, we will vote on the entire budget now. It is dollar-wise the same as the Finance Committee has recommended, so therefore we can vote on this by hand. Majority vote required. All those in favor of Article 3 as amended in the budget, please indicate by raising your blue card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The Article 3 is passed. Article 4.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer and town collector to enter into a compensating balance agreement for fiscal year 2013 pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53F of the Mass General Laws as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Article number 4 have been made and seconded, dealing with an annual article requiring the treasurer and the collector to put monies that they collect in interest-bearing accounts. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate or take from the available funds the sum of $4,800 or any other sum, said sum to be expended for social services in accordance with programs as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Article number 5 have been made and seconded, dealing with a sum of $4,800 for social services for the town of Clinton. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all in favor, please signify now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 6. Sir.
Mark Elworthy, 62 Highland Street, Clinton. Make a motion to reconsider Article 3.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second. Motion has been made and seconded to reconsider Article 3, the budget which you just passed. If you vote yes, you would reopen the entire budget. We would start all over again. If you vote no, it is confirming the vote you just took, and there will be no further discussion under the budget, and it will remain passed. That clear? All those in favor of reconsidering Article 3 indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. Article 3, there will be no further discussion of Article 3 during the duration of this meeting. Article 6.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000, said sum to be expended as the town of Clinton share to the Wachusett Health Education Action Team WHEAT, which committee is a delegate agency of the United Way of Tri-County.
Second.
Article 6 have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $15,000 to be appropriated to what is known as WHEAT. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all those in favor, please signify with your card in the air now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 7.
Mr. Moderator, I move that...
Sir.
My name is Jeff Ring, 31 Maple Street. I'd like to make a motion to take Article 36 out of order. This article is one or like one that's been up numerous years.
Wait a minute, Jeff. Let me get to it here.
I'd like to take Article 36.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to take up Article 36 at this point in your warrant and move it forward. First of all, is there a second to that motion? There is a second. Okay. All of those in favor of moving up Article 36, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Okay, we will now move to Article 36.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to create a police firearms training facility on a town-owned parcel of land adjacent to the town of Clinton Rifle Range. Said parcel is bound on the east by the Cap landfill, on the west by the property line of land commonly known as the Bates Pit, and on the north by the town line between Clinton and Sterling. This article shall authorize the chief of police or his designee to have sole and complete jurisdiction to operate this facility, including without limitation the rules and procedures for its use.
Second.
Article number 36 has been made and seconded. I should tell you, this is by citizen's petition, and in my discussion with the solicitor, it is our understanding that this is a non-binding article. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Ma'am.
Hi, Mariah Hunt Laguerre, 4 Walden Terrace. I'd like to hear from the police chief on this article, if we could.
Well, we'll ask him. We can't require that. Is the police chief here would like to comment on this?
Good evening. In regards to the article, I'm your police chief. That's what we've been doing our shooting for the past 35 years. It's safe, it's economical, and it provides us with a spot where we can do different scenarios. Does that answer your question? Anything else?
Okay. Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 36? There being none, we'll take a vote at this time. All those in favor of Article 36, please indicate by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed.
Mr. Moderator, I move for reconsideration of Article 36.
Motion has been made and seconded to reconsider Article 36. If you vote yes, you will negate the vote you just took and start all over. If you vote no, the article will remain passed and all further discussion will not occur on that this evening. All those in favor of reconsidering Article 36, please indicate now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. There will be no further discussion under Article 36 this evening. Going back to Article 7.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from available certified free cash and transfer to the stabilization fund the sum of $300,000.
Second.
Article number 7, seeking to take the sum of $300,000 and transfer it from free cash to the stabilization fund. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Hello, nice to see you. You should be recognized first, ma'am, but go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. My name is Mary Pitts, 21 Lawrence Street. I move to make an amendment to Article 7 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or take from available funds and transfer to the school department the sum of $300,000 or act in any manner relating thereto, as we are bleeding in our schools and sadly
Just motion
underfunded.
first, please. Motion first. All right. Is there a second on that motion? Okay. All right. I'm afraid we're going to have to rule that motion out of order. The reason being that the budget in Article 3 has been passed, and the money cannot be spent by the school department because they've only allotted so much money to spend. So, in order to do that, we would have to pass this article, and then we would have to go back to Article 3 and amend that $300,000 upwards in the school budget to spend. But because we have reconsidered Article 3 already, we cannot go back to Article 3. So therefore, that would be inappropriate to do and illegal. I'm sorry, but the law is the law on that. Still under discussion under Article 7. Ma'am.
Gloria Parkinson, 90 Haskell Avenue. This is a question, Mr. Moderator, with vis-a-vis what you've just said. And again, it's about the budget, but please correct me if I'm mistaken. We, as a town, could be facing revisiting the budget at a future date, given the negotiations that are ongoing, I believe, with some of the unions and employees in town. If that is so, and we do have to go back to a special town meeting in the not too distant future to revisit the budget, are we then able to go to this woman's suggestion in any way or form? In other words, by revisiting the budget, is it the opportunity to do that stabilization shift?
The short answer is yes. I mean, if the special town meeting was called and the school budget was put on the agenda, then, you know, that could be reopened and dealt with at that time. But because we have reconsidered it already this evening, we can't go back to it. So for this meeting, it cannot happen. It could happen at a future meeting if it was the will of the people.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So it could be readdressed. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions under Article 7? There being none, we'll take a vote at this time. All those in favor of taking $300,000 and put it in the stabilization fund, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Okay, the article is passed. Article number 8.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to borrow the sum of $200,000, said sum to be expended by the Superintendent of Public Works for the design, operation, construction, monitoring, and maintenance of the former town landfill off of South Meadow Road.
Second.
Article number 8 have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $200,000 to be spent by the Department of Public Works for the design, operation, and construction and monitoring and maintenance of the former town landfill off South Meadow Road. Finance Committee approved. This is a borrowing article, will require a two-thirds vote. Mr. McGowan.
Mr. Moderator, could I just make an amendment that it would be expended by the Board of Selectmen with the approval of the Board of Selectmen?
Second?
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Motion has been made and seconded to amend Article 8 so that it would say expended by the Superintendent of Public Works with the approval of the Board of Selectmen for. So in other words, whatever the DPW and Mr. McGowan were going to do, they would need the Selectmen's approval to do it. Questions, comments, or discussion on the proposed amendment to that, adding the Board of Selectmen statement in it? There being none. All those in favor of that, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion carries. So we're now on to Article 8 as amended. Mr. McGowan.
Chris McGowan, 36 Pondview Drive, and I'm the DPW superintendent. I'll try to be brief on this. For about 9 years now, we've been dealing with a notice of noncompliance up at the South Meadow Road landfill. Back about 4 or 5 years ago, we were issued an order that would have required us to put in a very expensive pump and treat system. Basically, it was to take all the groundwater out of the ground with pumps and send it to a treatment building treat all of the groundwater and then discharge it back in, and then dispose of any residuals that we collected in the treatment facility. We've been back and forth with the DEP for, like I said, many, many years, and we've come up with what the town considers a much better solution of the problem. We are going to, we have an order, we've been given an administrative order that we have to recap the landfill and dredge the cove in South Meadow Pond that's been impacted by the landfill. In order to cap the landfill under the current standards, we need to raise the grade so that the water will shed off it better than it does now. It's very flat right now. It ponds water, which is what most of the problem is down at the cove. By raising the grades, they're going to allow us to actually bring in some low-level contaminated soils. We'll be putting a scale house in, loader, bulldozers, and we'll basically be collecting a tipping fee for the soils that come in. And the tipping fee will at least, we're hoping to do a little better than break even on the entire project, including the dredging out of the pond. So instead of a $5 million project out of our pockets that we would then have to operate at plus or minus $100,000 a year, we're going to try to get out of this for, at worst case, free. The articles, there's two articles. The borrowing article you're voting on right now is to get the project started. We need some equipment up there, and we got to pay for some design work in order to get the project off the ground. After that, the next article, and I know we're not supposed to talk that way, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. The next article will be to set up a revolving fund, which is it's a fund to be able to put the money from the tipping fees into something that's dedicated for this project instead of putting it into the general fund and then having to reappropriate the money. So these two articles are to get us out of a mess that we've kind of had for about 9 years. In my opinion, it's a great option for the town, and I hope for your support. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion under Article 8? Sir.
John Martin, 28 Orange Street. We've been given a time limit by the state for when we have to complete this.
Mr. McGowan, is there a time limit on when we have to address this? All right, so 120 days for the first step, and then there'll be deadlines thereafter. Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 8? There being none, requires a two-thirds vote. It's a borrowing article. All those in favor of Article 8, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed unanimously. Article 9.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to establish a revolving fund in accordance with the provisions of Section 53E and a half of Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws for use by the Department of Public Works in connection with the recapping of the former town landfill, in which shall be deposited all tipping fees and the LSP review fees for material deposited at the landfill. Such fund to be used to defray the cost of recapping, operating, and monitoring the landfill. Such expenditures shall be authorized by the Superintendent of Public Works with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, provided that the expenditures from the such fund shall not exceed $200,000 in FY 2013.
Second.
Article number 9, dealing with establishing a revolving fund for the landfill, recapping thereof. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none. All those in favor of Article 9 as written, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And those opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 10.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from available certified free cash the sum of $40,000. Said sum to be expended by the Board of Selectmen to remove the, and dispose of the underground gasoline tank located at the Public Works garage, and to purchase and install a new gasoline storage tank.
Second.
Article number 10 have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $40,000 to remove and dispose of an underground gas tank located at the DPW garage and to purchase and install a new gasoline storage tank. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 10? There being, sir.
Stephen O'Brien, 342 Green Street. I'd like the words "or any other sum" stricken from Article number 10. It's an open box and it's kind of scary. That amounts to a blank check to me.
The warrant, as it was read, it didn't have it in there, so it wouldn't be in there anyway. Your statement, your warrant has it in as it was read from the stage. It does not have it in, and this would be the official warrant, is what was read. So what you're asking for is already done.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 10? Sir.
Mark Donahue, 9 Clamshell Road. I was just wondering if the tank is leaking, which is, I don't know if this is correct, but if it is leaking, does this sum have to do with the soil removal also? Or is that strictly for, don't we have to remove soil if the tank is, and the ground has been contaminated? So isn't this going to be a...
Okay, the question is the tank leaking? And if so, what is that going to cost?
I'm worried about contamination. It
I
seems like an
understand.
awful low fee.
Oh, it's a good question. I
to be-
understand. Mr. McGowan?
Yeah, the tank, actually, water is leaking into the tank from the fill and vent pipes. There's nothing, we've not had any indication of any gasoline leaking out. We've never lost any gasoline. We do still have a monitoring system on it. We've never lost gasoline. We've actually added to it from water getting into the tank, and it's caused a lot of problems in our vehicles and even more so in the police department vehicles. The soil, even if there was some contamination in the soil, the previous 2 articles that you passed would make it a lot cheaper. We could dig it out and haul it to our own landfills. So we should be good. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 10? There being none, Finance Committee approved. All those in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 11.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from available certified free cash the sum of $140,000, said sum to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for the purchase of a sanding truck.
Second.
Article number 11 have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $140,000 to purchase a new sanding truck for the DPW. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The motion is passed. The article is passed. Article 12.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from available certified free cash the sum of $110,000, said sum to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for a new roof and the replacement of windows at the fire station.
Second.
Article number 12, dealing with a sum of $110,000 for replacement or repair of the roof and window replacement at the Clinton Fire Station. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all those in favor, please raise your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article number 13.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to borrow the sum of $875,000, said sum to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for the purchase of a ladder truck for the Clinton Fire Department.
Second.
Article number 13, dealing with the sum of $875,000 for the purchasing a ladder truck for the Clinton Fire Department. This article, again, is Finance Committee approved. and it is a borrowing article requiring a two-thirds vote. Questions, comments, or discussion under Article 13? Sir.
Robert Epstein, 353 Church Street. It's more of a question. I'm sure we need the ladder truck. So we're taking that money from available funds?
No, we're borrowing.
We're borrowing.
Borrowing it.
From our stabilization fund?
No, we're borrowing from the bank.
Okay. It says that from the stabilization fund, so I was curious how that...
Yeah, well, what happens is when they write it, they're not sure where it's coming from because they write it in advance, and then as they put the budget together, then as it's read from the stage, it's read from the funding source. And that's the official article, and it was read as a borrowing situation.
Okay, that was the question. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions, comments, or discussion under Article 13? Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Paul Masalski, 20 Robert Street, Clinton, Mass. Hopefully. I also do not disagree. If Chief Hart says he needs a fire truck, he probably needs a fire truck, a ladder truck. But how bad do we need the ladder truck? And how many ladder trucks do we currently have? And what is their shelf life? And I don't know, it's very vague. I would just like to know some details as to why we need the ladder truck now, what the current status is, how many ladder trucks we already have, you know, how is it going to benefit the community and townspeople.
Okay. Chief?
Good evening, Richard Hart, Fire Chief. Currently, we have one ladder truck. It was purchased in 1988. It's 24 years old. We've had mechanical issues with it. We've spent thousands of dollars trying to make repairs that they're telling me is impossible. Some of the parts aren't even being made anymore. And these are some big companies that are involved in the parts manufacturing. Currently, if we set the ladder up, the ladder slowly creeps down. Getting to the point where it's not safe to train with, let alone when we need it for fire like we had on Sterling Street when they're pulling people out of the building over it. I really think that the time has come after 24 years to replace this particular vehicle. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion? Sir.
Gus Weber, 11 Lydia Lane. I agree. I'm sure you need a fire truck. Questions on how we arrived at an $875,000 purchase price. I just did quick research sitting here in the audience. I found a 2008 model fire truck, fully refurbed, all the specs, all the good stuff, for $500,000. I'd love a new fire truck. I'm curious how we arrived at that number and what options we went through. Looks like a refurb of a unit would cost about $250,000. I'd like to understand.
Okay, Mr. Chief Hart.
2008, it's 4 years old. City of Boston gets more time out of it than that. Some of these trucks that are up for sale may have been lemons in the beginning. I don't think we as a community should take a look at a used vehicle that we're going to depend on. Not only the citizens in town, but the firefighters as well. The price is actually off a state bid. The fire chiefs, in cooperation with the Metropolitan Regional Planning Commission, went out to bid for ladder trucks. And that's where the figure came from. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion, sir?
Sure, we'll get defeated, but we'll give it a whirl. Mr. Moderator, make a motion to amend Article 13 to an amount of $500,000 to be borrowed as written in the motion. The motion is to reduce this to $500,000.
Okay, motion's been made to reduce the $875,000 figure in Article 13 to $500,000. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Discussion under that motion. Sir, do you want to explain why?
I know, no doubt that you need a fire truck, no doubt that you got it off the state bid. Just when we're moving $6,000 from the police budget to the library, we're questioning the school budget, we're pulling Robert's Rules tricks to not open the budget again. Nice, Mr. Allworthy. Usable life of a fire truck is, I'm sure, 24 years. If we can find a reasonably used truck, by the way, this one has a 12-year warranty left on it. Don't know much about fire trucks, but I think a 12-year warranty is pretty good. Let's tighten our belts where we need to, and let's look to a fire truck that'll get us 20 years and at a reduced rate. So.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Sir? Under the proposed amendment change now, the budget change.
Clifford Blake, 32 Orange Street. I'm a former police officer, and I know what firemen have to go through. And I would think that we would want our firemen to have the best equipment. You know, who here would want to go up in a ladder truck that's 4 or 5 years old or 6 years old, and we don't know where it's been or what it's done, or, what condition it's in? I think we should listen to Chief Hart. He's the expert on fires in this town. He's the expert on fighting fires in this town. That's all I have to say.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion on the proposed dollar change to Article 13, sir?
Frank Pascal, 48 Cedar Street. I think we should keep in mind that in the last 4 or 5 years there was a used fire truck purchased from Sterling. That was refurbished a little bit, I believe. So, and there's even multiple ambulances. We have multiple fire trucks. We have a close community tie with the local area. We always get what we need from support. And he's also done his job for many years as a fire chief and gotten us what we needed. And definitely what we see has always been there. So the new fire truck is definitely, the used stuff. If it's coming from a city like Boston, how much does stuff like that get used?
Any further questions, comments, or discussion on the proposed change? Okay. We're moving the amendments. Okay. So all those in favor of ending debate on the dollar change, not voting on the change, just on any debate on it, please indicate now with your card. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. We will now vote on the dollar change. If you vote yes under Article 13, the amendment, you will be voting to change the $875,000 figure to $500,000. All those in favor of the motion to lower the amount to $500,000 indicate by raising your card now. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion is defeated. Article 13 stands at this point as written in your warrant. Any further questions, comments, discussion under the article? There being none, requiring a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of Article 13 as written in your warrant, please indicate by raising your card now, please. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 14.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from available certified free cash the sum of $15,000, said sum to be expended by the Board of Selectmen for the purchase of a vehicle for the building inspector.
Second.
Article number 14 have been made and seconded, dealing with a sum of $15,000 for a vehicle for the building inspector. I believe Question, this article is Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, ma'am?
Hello, I'm Jennifer Wiley Cordone from 62 Prescott Street. I recall reading that previously the building inspector had requested mileage rather than a vehicle. I understand that we're replacing a used vehicle. So my question is, how much is it to reimburse for mileage versus a $15,000 car, which I believe is a lease rather than a purchase?
Because the building inspector has a vehicle currently right now, I don't know what the cost would be to reimburse because he doesn't track his mileage. And this amount of money is to try and either buy new or used or what he can get for $15,000. So we didn't look to lease it at this point. For $15,000 was a lower amount that we could just get a decent vehicle for $15,000.
Thank you.
Any further discussion under Article 14? Finance Committee approved. All those in favor, please signify by raising your card now. Thank you. And opposed? Okay, the article is defeated. Article 15.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the vote, that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000, said sum to be expended by the Personnel Board to conduct the compensation and classification study of all non-union positions.
Second.
Article number 15 having made and seconded, dealing with a sum of $15,000 to be expended by the Personnel Board to conduct a compensation and classification study on all non-union positions, or act in any manner thereto. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none. All those, Finance Committee approved. All those in favor of Article 15, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? The article is defeated. Article 16.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to take from available certified free cash the sum of $124,800, said sum to be expended by the school department for the replace of windows at the Clinton Middle School.
Second.
Article number 16 have been made and seconded, dealing with the sum of $126,000 to be expended by the school department for the replacement of windows at the Clinton Middle School. Finance Committee approved. Questions, comments, or discussion onto the article? Sir.
Tom Callahan, 78 Wilson Street. Mr. Moderator, I move to amend Article 16 to read, to see if the town will vote, raise, and appropriate, borrow, transfer from the stabilization fund, or take from available funds the sum of $424,800 or any other sum, said sum to be expended by the school department for the replacement of windows at Clinton Middle School, improve technology throughout the Clinton Public Schools, and for other school resources, or act in any manner relating thereto.
All right, do you have that in writing, sir? Okay. Okay, the motion is, was that motion seconded, by the way? The motion as read, the proposed amendment change would be to raise and appropriate, borrow, transfer from the stabilization fund, or take from available funds the sum of $424,800, which is a $300,000 increase, to be expended by the school department to replace the windows at the Clinton Middle School, improve technology throughout Clinton Public Schools, and other school resources. In just a little discussion we had here in terms of procedure, it appears that if you, again, it would be a situation where this would be a two-thirds vote because it would be a borrow. It's unclear whether we could spend the money for until the next fiscal year because the budget is already been voted on. So the money would be appropriate, would be borrowed, I guess is the word we would use, because that we used in the motion. But they couldn't spend it in this coming fiscal year.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Ward?
Just to clarify, if this money is borrowed, we would need to have money in our debt service to repay the installment on the loan. So there is no money budgeted to pay for that. The part of the money for the windows that's in the article was from available funds. But if you go over and above that, another $300,000, we need to have something in our debt service to be able to cover that. So we would have to wait to make sure that we have money appropriated in the future to pay for that.
Sir.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Callahan, 78 Wilson Street. I do believe earlier this evening that we appropriated $300,000 additional dollars to the stabilization fund, and I do believe the amendment recognizes that the money could be taken from the stabilization fund as well.
Yes, but you've already, as we said, when it was tried to be transferred at that point, we said you would have to go back into Article 3 to amend that up to take that $300,000. You couldn't do it there, and you can't do it here. So it's the same situation for this fiscal year.
And disheartened because we look at the stabilization fund as a rainy day fund, and certainly if this isn't a rainy day within our town...
Sir, can I just interrupt you, sir? This is not a question of whether someone is for or against the article. This is a question of legality and what we can and can't do. So we can't break state law just to accommodate any particular group.
And I was under the assumption that the stabilization fund was used for that.
I don't think you would ask us to do that.
Thank you very much.
Questions, comments, or discussion?
Mr. Moderator, are you going to allow a vote on that motion?
sir. In order to appropriate money, it has to be specific as to what you're going to do with it on this type of article. It's not the general school budget. So where it's, part of the motion that you're making says, and other school resources, which is too vague. So if you want to amend your amendment to make it more specific, I'm not really supposed to be telling people how to write their motions, but I'm trying to assist you. So, the improved technology throughout the Clinton Public Schools is fine. The and other school resources is too vague. So if you would like to, come on up.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Callahan, 78 Wilson Street. I move to redact the and other school resources from my amendment and replace it with books to supply for the libraries.
Okay.
Excuse me, just for clarification.
Just clarification.
It has to be a capital improvement. Books and supplies is from the normal operating budget. If you're gonna make an amendment, it has to be a capital, this article here, to make an amendment and stay within the scope of the article, it has to be a capital improvement. So books and supplies are not capital improvements. So your amendment with your first two terms, I think, appear to be okay. The resources was just too broad. So, I mean, by adding books and supplies, you're going to take this article outside of its original scope. It's going to be non-enforceable.
Come on up.
Tom Callahan, 78 Wilson Street. I'll remove the books and supplies for the libraries, and if I could just read that to replace all the windows at the Clinton Middle School and technology throughout the Clinton Public Schools.
The windows are already in there.
All windows.
Replace all the windows in the Clinton Middle School and improve technology throughout the Clinton Public Schools. Is there a second to that? Okay, there was no second to your previous motion, so we don't have to deal with that. All right. At this point, we're dealing on amending the proposed amendment to read all the windows at the Clinton Middle School and improve technology throughout the Clinton Public Schools. Excuse me. Okay. Sir? We got to find you a closer chair. You read all the funding sources that are in there, and we want to specify it.
I'm sorry?
You read all the potential funding sources that were listed in the warrant, and we need to specify it.
I believe I spoke to that earlier this evening we added $300,000 to the stabilization fund, and the $300,000 that I increased was from directly that.
Okay, why don't we try that then? We'll try. So this article, All right. The amendment is to change it from, it was raised and appropriate. It was free cash before. We're going to change it to the stabilization fund, if you approve that amendment. What I think you said, sir, was the 300,000 increase would come from the stabilization fund. And the 124.8 would come from free cash, which is as originally planned in the warrant. So the motion, the amendment is to change the 124,800 to read 424,800. And of that sum, 124,800 will come to free cash, and $300,000 would come from the stabilization fund. This would be for the purpose of replacing all the windows of the Clinton Middle School and to improve technology throughout the Clinton Public Schools. Was there a second to that gentleman's motion? Okay. We are now voting on the amendment to the motion as I've just read it. All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by raising your hand now. Oh, I'm sorry, hands down. I'm sorry, little discussion. Mr. Conley.
Jr., Bill Conley Jr. I'm a former member of the school committee. I've been a supporter of the school system all my life. I've got 5 kids. They've all received a quality education there. I backed the override vote last year. And I've got to tell you, earlier tonight, I attended a school committee meeting upstairs where they were discussing the budget situation. And they essentially respectfully declined to spend the $730,000 that they have in school choice to balance their budget. They have a $730,000 account sitting there doing nothing, and they decline to use that to balance this budget. They'll receive another $700,000 during FY13, and they've committed to spend that to balance the budget, but not the $700,000 that is already there. They're sitting on, you got to understand this so you know what you're voting on. They're sitting on keeping a fund on the side for future emergencies instead and robbing the stabilization fund instead of spending the money they have now. And I think that's wrong.
Any further questions, comments, or discussion under the proposed amendment?
I'm Virginia West, 21 Lane Ave, Clinton, Mass., Vice Chair of the School Committee until next week. Mr. Conley left the meeting early, and I put the question to Mr. Tumalo of the Finance Committee and asked him also if we should deplete that $700,000, what they thought of that. And they said it was not a good idea. He said not a good idea. But if we need to spend that money, we will spend that money. But doing the windows, I'm not sure is the right angle because we're still short 35 positions. That we're not going to get the 35 positions back if we do the windows. And maybe we can come back at a special meeting and ask for the money that we put in the stabilization account to go for teachers and paras. But to replace the windows, if the money is not in that stabilization account for the other 3 sides of the building, which it doesn't state here, but that $124,800 is just the back side of the building. If the money's not there in that stabilization account, we can't come back at a special town meeting to withdraw that. And the Finance Committee knew we were going after that $300,000, and I'm sorry, but you sandbagged us. We are here to be working together, and you knew what we were planning on doing. We came to you and told you what we were planning to do, and then you turn around and do that. Why didn't you tell us when you brought it up for reconsideration that we wouldn't have been allowed to do that on an upcoming article? Because you should be teaching us and bringing everybody together.
Please, no shouting out. If you want to speak, be raised. Raise your hand, be
We
recognized.
need to be working together in this town, and it seems like we're working against each other every time you turn around. That's not right. And by the way, I think you have $900,000 or so sitting in your stabilization account. So it's not us that are sitting on $700,000 and not using it. You're sitting on $900,000 and not using it. I'm sorry, we have to work together.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Conley.
I'm reading from facts and figures provided by the town accountant's office, and the projection for next year is the starting balance of the school choice fund, unexpended funds, is $729,000. The anticipated receipts, and they're anticipated, they may not come out to this number, but this is what's estimated right now, is $791,000. And the school committee is allocating $788,000, leaving them with a surplus of $731,000 that they don't want to spend. They want to sit on it. And I suggest to you that before they come to town meeting and ask for the stabilization fund that's there for the whole town, they exhaust the resources they have in-house first.
Questions, comments, or discussion? Sir? Oh, no. Ma'am. Mr. Epstein.
Robert Epstein, 353 Church Street. School finances are enormously complicated, and it sounds like we're sitting on money and watching it grow, and that's really not the case. The money is constantly spent. Now, earlier today, we are going to have a business manager next year, which will help the situation. We'll have a spokesman, a financial spokesman. But I asked him about this money, and what he said was, we put that money aside, we use it for school purposes. That doesn't just sit there. We use it constantly. When a teacher retires, and this is a benefit that's been going on for a long time, but teachers get paid if they don't use their sick time, $29,000. Well, that money comes from that revolving account. Now, we have teachers this year retiring. We potentially have 20 teachers retiring next year. Well, trust me, that's very expensive. That we owe them. They've earned it. They've put their time in teaching our children, and we're going to give them their money. But that money comes out of the stabilization account. Now, what our consultant said was that's your money, and you need to use it for school purposes. And using it on a one-time expenditure means that money's gone forever. And trust me, if it's gone forever, you'll see us here for all kinds of things that you do not see us for now. We use that money constantly. When we balance our budget, if we're $170,000 over, we use that money. We constantly use that money. And so we have, in the beginning of school choice, we were able to save that money. I don't know under what superintendent that happened, but we've had that money, but we've been using it all along. And there are lots of expenses that we do not come to town floor for. So to spend it one time is not going to be a solution, because we'll be back here next year in a worse shape than we are now. So thank you.
My name is Claire Lent, and I live at 16 Lorraine Avenue. And tonight's battle seems to be about money, which is very understandable in the economy in which we live. But we have children in this town that are taking the brunt of everybody being in disagreement. We have children in this town who are going out of town to school because their parents do not approve of what's going on in our school system. If we continue to have a school committee at loggerheads with the finance committee, we are going to have a school system that falls totally apart. Our children are our future. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. I have 7 grandchildren under the age of 6, and as I sit here tonight and listen, I am not sure that I would want my child being enrolled in a system that argues about technology and Windows and refuses to spend money to give them a future. Check and find out how many of our kids board a bus and go to Bolton, Lancaster, West Boylston, and Worcester. How many of them are going over to Marlborough, to the Science and Math Academy, because their parents do not feel we have the technology in town to give them an education? We are spending more in tuition to send children out of town than many of us are paying in taxes.
Questions, comments, or discussion under the proposed amendment?
Jim Tumalo, 32 Pondview Drive, member of your Finance Committee. This year's budget was a tough one. We're giving the school $600,000, which is over 3%. We're paying over $190,000 in school choice, coming up on $124,000 to fix the window in their building that should have been maintained. No doubt that they need technology upgrades. This doesn't solve their problems with teachers. This doesn't solve their budget problem. One of the things that we were concerned with was giving them money that we can't give them next year. This is 7 years of a budget decline, lost revenue, no income. I think the town came to the plate this year. I understand that's not what they want to hear. I think people have to understand that we are 4.5 miles square. We have no real revenue growth. The only way that school's ever going to solve any of their problems is with some kind of override, and the taxpayers have to approve that. Taking this budget money that we need in stabilization, that we're so underfunded, and taking it out so they can get some technology is a great idea, but doesn't solve any of the problems they really have, which is, having enough money to run their school the way they want to run. I think that the town come up to the plate. If you look at the 3 new schools we got, the amount of money from our budget that goes to the school, the fact that we started with $600,000 this year. We didn't start with 250. I mean, some of these problems come back to stabilization money that they were looking for. We're not going to overfinance the school so we can take it and take it away next year. We feel that we can commit to the school this $600. We feel we can commit some more next year. We can't just keep taking money that we need to protect this town for the future and give it to the school this year and let things fall down. I appreciate if we just leave it the way it is. We approved 124 the first time that I can remember that we came up to the school and said, hey, that building needs to be repaired. Let's repair it. Let's help them out. Let's move forward together. Hey, next year may be a sunshine year. I don't know. But this year isn't, and the last 5 or 6 have been even. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Aaron Zingano, 26 Front Street. I'm the superintendent of schools. We had a lot of discussion tonight about all of this, and I do want to address the school choice account. School choice is a revolving account. We are allowed to save up as much as we possibly can, and then we spend it. Fortunately, that's how it's done. We do have a balance in there. There's no doubt about it. Here's how we use that account. Number one, every year we go over budget because we have to deal with federal and state mandates that other departments don't. If the fiscal year ended tomorrow, we are $178,000 over budget right now, without a doubt. Now, most departments who would find themselves in that situation would be right here tonight called unpaid bills, and you would have to pay them. We don't do that because we have that account, and we can settle our debts that way. As Mr. Epstein said, we're looking at 20 teachers in the next 3 years who are retiring. We have a lot of people all the same age. Those are only the people who told me that they are retiring. Plenty of people don't believe in telling us. They quietly want to go away, and they won't tell us until a month before school ends. That's 20 people times 29,000. Those people, it's in their contract, and they deserve it after that many years of serving Clinton children and serving the Clinton public schools. We can't even budget for that anymore. I have to balance between teaching today's kids and then trying to pay off people who have dedicated their lives to the Clinton public schools. And I've got to figure out how to do that. That's why we have an account. The same thing with repairs and maintenance. Plenty of things come up all the time, and we don't have the money to fix them. We just don't. So we hit school choice account again, as usual. So we use it to balance the budget, to pay the retirees, and by the way, I don't know if it was even mentioned, that we pay 12 teachers each year their salary. Mr. Connolly was on the school committee when this was first established, and back then, the only use of that account was technology. That was it. That was the glory days when we had money for technology. And then gradually, it was, 5 people being paid out of school choice, and then 8 people being paid out of school choice. Now it's 12, and I promise, Mr. Conley, it will be more people next year. It has to be. I'm not going to sit on a pile of money while people go on the unemployment lines and people head out of town like they're heading out now. On your back page, next to the last page, as I believe Mr. Connolly said, $914,000 is leaving this town because kids are going away to other schools. We have 99 choicing out and 35 at charter schools. That's where we are right now. The more we cut our own budget, the more that assessment goes up. You don't see that money because it never makes it to the town of Clinton. I think tonight you realize, do you think we could have used another $914,000 in this town for every department? It's not just the schools, it's every department. Instead, that's money we're sending to another town. We're sending it out of town, another city, another town, because people are leaving, because our class sizes are going up, because our budgets are getting cut every year. All right? Yes, I understand completely that we can't be raiding the stabilization account. I understand that. That's the rainy day fund. But as Tom said, it is pouring right now in this town, and the schools are really suffering at this point. We know we can't get $1 million. We understand that. We have to make do with what we got. But if we could get a little bit something more, it could help maybe keep some kids in this community. And God knows we need it. Thank you.
Is there any further questions, comments, or discussion on the amendment to Article 16? Let me explain here in terms of procedure where we're going to this so that you know where we're going. The article, the amendment that you have not voted on yet, we're going to vote on. The amendment to increase that article by $300,000. This requires a hand vote, majority hand vote. If that is to pass, then we would go to vote on the article as amended. And that would be because the Finance Committee has not approved that amount of money, we make it, by town bylaw, we make it a ballot vote. And because the money is coming through stabilization, by state law, it becomes a 2/3 vote to pass it. I just wanted to know that so you know where we're going. Is there any further questions, comments, or discussion on the amendment to Article 16? Very good. If you vote yes, you'll be voting to increase the amount by $300,000 from $124,800 to $424,800, and it would be brought to all the windows of Clinton Middle School and improve technology throughout Clinton Public Schools. And that would be by coming from the stabilization fund. Somebody, sir. Sure.
Mr. Walker, if you approve this amendment, then it doesn't pass. Schools don't lose their income. I want you to be aware of it. Our goal is to fix that. Not that I'm against technology, but our goal is to fix that. I want you to be aware, 2/3 is a large vote. Thank you.
Any other discussion? There being none, we're going to vote on increasing that article by $300,000 at this time. All those in favor of increasing the article to reflect $424,800 indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion is defeated. So Article 16 stands at $124,800 for, I guess that's the back windows of the middle school. Questions, comments, or discussion on the article itself? There being none, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 17.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to establish the following account in accordance with the provisions of section 53B and a half, section chapter 44, half, law. Used by the town clerk, to which shall be deposited certain fees paid for earth, barren, and death-related services. Such funds to be used for the restoration of town records and other related expenses, provided that the expenditures of such funds shall not exceed $10,000 for FY 2013.
Article number 17 have been made and seconded, dealing with the revolving fund for the town clerk's office. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? There being none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Article 19, we've already voted on. Ma'am?
Yolanda Osborne, 180 Main Street. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to move Article 35 forward.
Motion has been made to move Article 35 forward. To vote on at this time, and seconded. Article 35 deals with, well, let the selectmen get started. I didn't say close, I'm moving. All those in favor of moving Article 35 up to this vote on this time, please indicate so. Thank you, and opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're moving Article 35 up. It's just been read. It's about to be seconded. Okay. Article 35 is now in play, dealing with sum of $30,000 for the Parks and Rec to repave the basketball court at Savage Field and install 2 new backboards and poles and line the court, and also purchase 2 team benches for the court and 2 sets of bleachers for the ball field. Questions, comments, or discussion under the article? Finance Committee approved. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand now. Thank you. And opposed? Thank you. The article is passed. Now we go back to Article 19.
Improvement and reconstruction Water Street and/or the sidewalks, drainage, and related therefore to the connection with the Water Street and Bolton Road reconnection project, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take all necessary steps, including executing the documents appropriating the available funds and money necessary for such upon such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deem to be in the best interest of the town, or act in any of the manner.
Article number 19 has been made and seconded, authorizing the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain, permanent and temporary easement for the purpose of repairing, improving, and reconstructing Water Street and the sidewalks and drainage facilities and so forth. Questions, comments, or discussion?